You're listening to the Maryland Fishing Line, a production of the Chesapeake Angler Magazine. And now your host, Brian Rains.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Maryland Fishing Line. This is the podcast where we talk about fishing throughout the entire state. It's a place for you, whether you're chasing rockfish up and down the Chesapeake Bay, snakehead on the Potomac, white marlin off the coast of Ocean City, or maybe you're out there fishing for trout on the fly in the western Maryland streams. Every week we're going to bring you fishing reports, news, information you need, discussions, interviews with folks throughout the state. The Maryland Fishing Line is a production of the Angler Magazine Chesapeake Edition. Chesapeake Angler can be found throughout southern Maryland and Arundel County and the Eastern Shore. If you'd like to see it in your area and it's not there, let us know. So before we get started, I want to give a quick word of thanks to our sponsor. This week's episode is sponsored by Waterfront Marine in Edgewater, Maryland. Waterfront Marine was once again named the #1 dealer in the world, not just Maryland, so not just the state, not just the nation, but the #1 dealer in the world for chaparral and robalo boats, and they did that for the second year in a row in 2019. They offer the largest inventory of new and used boats in the area, including robalo and chaparral, along with Bennington pontoons and Carver and Marquis yachts. Their experienced and professional sales staff is there to help you through the buying process in a friendly, no-pressure manner. You can find them online at waterfrontmarine.com or call them at 443-949-9041. I'm going to put all that information in the show notes so you don't have to be scribbling things down, writing down phone numbers. You can just open up your podcast app right there in the show notes and find their website address and their phone number. But I will give them to you one more time, waterfrontmarine.com, 443-949-9041. So it is December, just a few days before Christmas. So probably not many of us are out there fishing, unless you're one of those hardier souls. Rockfish season in Maryland waters is over. It closed out on December 15th, and the fishing was great right up until the dinner bell, if you knew where to look. But let's say you are one of those folks that just can't stop and needs to scratch that itch. Here we go. You can still get out for a little while longer. The Potomac remains open for 2 fish per day with a minimum of 20 inches until December 31st. So right up until New Year's Eve. That'd be a great way to ring out the year, wouldn't it? Celebrate New Year's Eve by going out and catching some fish. The lower Potomac on the Virginia side continues to produce excellent catches. Trollers are doing very well in the 40-foot depth using small umbrella rigs. Anybody else know? I mean, last week I just kept talking about the 40-foot window. That's just like the magic number when the water gets cold. They're fished from 20 to 28 inches on average. And here's one of the tips you really need. Cold and clear weather is going to find the fish not as eager to bite. We're looking for warmer, overcast days. So if you get one of those days where the temperature's a little bit warmer than it was a few days before and for the next few days, combined with some gray overcast skies, that might be a really good day to give it a go. The main stem of the bay below Smith Point has plenty of fish up to 32 inches. And some of the big run stripers are in those big sea run stripers are found their way into the mix. So if you're down in Virginia below Smith Point, you can be on the lookout for those. The Virginia season is open until the end of the year. The minimum is 20 inches, and there is a maximum of 36 inches, and it's a 1 fish per day limit in Virginia. Some hardy freshwater fishermen are still catching chain pickerel in ponds and at St. Mary's Lake down here in southern Maryland. I'd imagine that that's happening all over the place where you're finding chain pickerel. And believe it or not, some crappie are still hitting live minnows at St. Mary's Lake. There's been some reports of that happening. A lot of that information, thank you, Ken, over at the Tackle Box, Lexington Park. So everyone's heard the phrase, save the bay. My guess is many of us have maybe a love-hate relationship with the term. We all, obviously, we all want to be responsible with our resource, while at the same time, we want to be able to enjoy it as well as preserving it for future generations. So what can we do as responsible anglers to do both? How can we find that happy medium where we can enjoy that resource today while at the same time being responsible with it and preserving it for future generations? How about we do that by eating more fish? Pretty simple. That's a good answer. It sounds strange, but it's not really, if you think about it. Maryland waters are home to 3 invasive species, and the best way to save the bay is going to involve harvesting those fish. Yes, you heard it. The best way to save the bay is to kill and eat fish. I think that sounds pretty good to me. So those invasive fish, they do pose sort of a wide array of problems for the Chesapeake Bay and for Maryland waters in general, tributaries. And the good news for us is that they taste good. It's pretty simple. But let's back up for a minute. What is an invasive species? An invasive species is non-native, and in the instance of these R3, the blue catfish, the flathead catfish, and the snakehead, they have the potential to cause ecological harm to the environment because it doesn't belong there. These fish don't belong where they are. So they impact the environment and they impact their surroundings in ways that they shouldn't, in the ways that can be detrimental or harmful to the bay. So the blue and flathead catfish were introduced in the 1960s to create a recreational fishing opportunity. And now, before you get your panties in a bunch, that was a common practice during that period. It was just something that was done. You wanted to bring new and different types of species to areas, and it's something that happened around the country. It's not just something that was happening here. And that was done all the way up, I think, through the early 1980s. These invasive species, though, which is what they're considered now, many times don't have natural predators. So their numbers can increase drastically. They can explode. They can just, the population of these invasive species, no, don't say feces. The population of these invasive species can just explode exponentially because they don't have any natural predator. And then combined with what they tend to do, they tend to eat native fish or things like crabs or mussels, and can be detrimental to the populations of those other native species, or the things that the other native species feed on. So they're eating the food of the native species. Not to mention that they can spread viruses and pathogens throughout the water. One example, the largemouth bass virus. And mycobacteria that are found in all different parts of the Chesapeake Bay. And these pathogens could, in fact, use another invasive species to expand their ranges. They can actually hitchhike on the, as we know, highly mobile northern snakehead, or we like to call them frankenfish. So snakehead hunters out there, good on you. You're being environmentally responsible. So when a new species enters into a complex ecosystem like that we have here in the Chesapeake Bay, the ecosystem can change in ways that threaten ongoing conservation and management efforts. So imagine, the managers put in all of this effort into rebuilding whatever species it might be, and they've got all these plans and these tools, and then they implement that. And these can take years. These can take, 5s, 10s of years to actually see the impact because it's a slow-moving process. And then all of a sudden, an invasive species, a non-native invasive species, is introduced into the mix midstream. And it just blows up all of those management efforts. So that's probably one of the largest issues. Not to mention that they just, specifically with the case of the northern snakehead with its just voracious appetite both eating other species and eating the prey of other species. Maryland DNR has launched many campaigns over the past, and we've been dealing with this for a long time, 15 years. Snakehead first showed up in Crofton in 2002, so we've been dealing with this for a long time. Maryland DNR has launched many campaigns over the last 15 years to encourage the public to both fish and harvest these invasive fish. In fact, it is illegal to put a snakehead back in the water, either in part or in whole, alive or dead. If you catch it, you kill it. And if you kill it, you're going to want to eat it because it tastes pretty doggone good. So it's helped. I mean, it's helped some. Greater fishing pressure on those non-native invasive species can and has caused their numbers to decline. But it's not enough. Recreational anglers and commercial markets have been slow to develop. And quite frankly, they're trying to do more to spread the word that these fish actually taste good. It takes a while for somebody to go, oh, that's that snakehead frankenfish that I've seen on television. I wouldn't want to eat that. You go into a restaurant and they're serving snakehead. You're going to, if you're the uneducated and if you're not an angler, then you don't understand that's doing a lot of good things, that it's a good fish to eat. It's quite tasty. And at the same time, it is removing that fish from its non-natural environment. It's if you're not in the community of recreational or commercial anglers, it's going to be difficult for you, based just upon what you hear and see in the media, to understand that that's something that you're going to want to consume. And did you know that the blue catfish, which is also quite tasty, the blue catfish is now on the menu at most state institutions? I wasn't aware of that until just here recently. Anywhere in the state institution that has food service, schools, universities, hospitals, and prisons are all serving blue catfish as a part of an effort to reduce their population. So it's doing a lot of good things there. And now here's where you, as a recreational angler in the state of Maryland, come in. And this is what you specifically can do to help. So here it is. Fish more. Anybody got a problem with that? I don't. Fish more, eat more, and then turn around and do it all over again. Fish, eat, repeat. I mean, how can you go wrong with that, right? And know that invasive fish can be harvested any time of the year, at any size, and in any number. That's right. It's game on. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. It doesn't matter how many you've already got in the box. It doesn't matter what size they are. If it's an invasive species, if it's a blue catfish, flathead, or the yummy tasty northern snakehead, kill it and eat it any time of the year. You do have to use legal fishing gear in the state, and you do have to have a license. But license fees, I mean, that just goes to help reduce the population. And with the snakehead, like I said earlier, but it's a very important point to reiterate. It is illegal to have a live northern. You guys are going to get used to hearing Brian flub words, so maybe we should start like a little run-in website with a run-in total of how many words per week Brian flubs. But remember, it is illegal to have a live northern snakehead in your possession. So if you want to expand that fish more, eat more, repeat, maybe it needs to be fish more, catch more, kill more, eat more, repeat. So the kill more in the middle. Let's all get out there and hashtag kill the snakehead. Snakehead now, you see the pictures of them. They are not winning any beauty contests, but they very well might win you a cooking contest. The fillets that come out of snakehead are mild and flaky. If you've never had them, do yourself a favor and find them somewhere. Ask your local restaurants to put them on the menu. That's another thing that you can do. Even if you're not an angler, you can say, hey, you know what? I hear these fish are good. I'd love to try them. Can you get them in here? they are prized. These fish that were invasive are prized as food sources in their origin countries. So it should be no surprise that there are lots of recipes and recommendations on how to cook them. Just Google it. Go to your Google box, open up your little handheld, internet machine, and type in snakehead recipes, and it's gonna, you're gonna get more than you could possibly imagine, or probably even try. More than you could probably even cook. So here's what you want to do: strip the fillet from the fish using a fillet knife that is a thin, sharp blade. It's like a fillet in any other fish. There's no real magic here. So you're just using a fillet knife to take that fillet off of the fish. Now, here's a tip. They're slimy and they're slippery, like a lot of other fish, but they feel like they're even more so. Use a towel, or maybe one of those silicone gloves. I use a towel to hold onto the fish's head, and it's going to make it a whole lot easier to control during the fillet process. So if you've got somebody out there, if you've got somebody that cleans your fish for you, lucky you, you can provide them some instruction on how to do it. So once you've got that really nice fillet, game on. You can fry it, bake it, saute it, grill it, my favorite, blackened, or just keep it simple and drop it in some olive oil with some spices. And I'm getting hungry sitting here recording this episode. If you do have a favorite recipe, man, I want you to share it. Add to the vast information stores of the internet. Don't be stingy. We all want to eat more fish, and we want to be eating invasive fish, and we want to make them tasty. So if you've got something that says, man, if you haven't tried snakehead using XYZ 1, 2, 3, it's your responsibility to put it out there for other people to give a go. So that's that. Eat more fish, kill more fish, and help save the bay. It can't be any simpler or clearer than that. Eat more, kill more, and just go out there and fish. I mean, that's something we all should not have any problem helping out in our effort to save the bay. So now we can all, as anglers, proudly put a Save the Bay bumper sticker on our boat, or wherever you'd like to put it. Wherever you put stickers, that's where you can put it. Get yourself a Save the Bay sticker and stick it there. Coming up next week, I saw this a little earlier. I want to dig into what's going on with bluefish numbers. I know that the council has made a recommendation. Atlantic States Marine Fisheries and Mid-Atlantic Marine Fisheries have made some recommendations that will impact the numbers of bluefish. I want to dig into that report a little bit and talk a little bit more about that. Before we wrap up this episode number 2, I'd like to take a quick minute and thank all of our sponsors. And I have quite a list. JMJ Firearms in Mechanicsville. Go in and see Joseph. If you learn all your firearm and ammunition needs. You're looking to buy or sell a house in Southern Maryland, the Cavallaro Heath Group of Remax in Prince Frederick. You got your air conditioner, your heat needs some help. Modern Air HVAC in Mechanicsville. Stoney's Kingfisher restaurant down in Solomon's. Hey, go in there and tell them you want to see some snakehead on the menu. It's a good idea. They got some great oyster specials running this time of year too. Scotts Cove Marine over on Deal Island. Seems strange here, something that's got sort of our roots here in Southern Maryland, to have somebody over on Deal Island, but it's only like a 3-mile run from Southern Maryland, from Solomon's or from Point Lookout over to a Scotts Cove. So if you want or need to have a little bit of work done on your boat, or you're looking to maybe do a repower, they are a big Suzuki dealer and can help you out with that. Chesapeake Grill in Delhi. They got locations in Dunkirk, Bowie, and Rosehaven. Another one. Let's go in there and tell them to put some snakehead on the menu. Huntingtown Automotive in Huntingtown, Maryland. So, Troy's great with a car, and he doesn't. They don't jerk you around. That's where I take my vehicles. That's Huntingtown Automotive. Coming up at the end of January, the Downtown Richmond Boat Show. I don't have the exact dates, but I'll put them in the show notes. If you're looking for something to do in the cold weather months, and boat shows and fishing shows and all of those things are a great way to pass a weekend. And of course, Waterfront Marine, I mentioned them earlier in Edgewater. I'm going to add links to all of these fantastic businesses in the show notes. But, these are some businesses that are out there supporting sportsmen. They're supporting anglers. They're supporting hunters. So let's, in turn, support them. That's just the good thing to do. As always, you can find us online at marylandfishingline.com, or you can find Chesapeake Angler Magazine at theanglermagazine.com. You want to send us a fishing report? You want to hear your voice on the podcast box coming out of the stereo speakers of your truck? Give me a call, 410-231-3850. Leave a message. Keep it short. Keep it tight. Don't ramble, please. Thanks for listening. And until next week, tight lines, everybody.